Number 13, I have to ask you all this honestly. Does it look like the end of the arguably liberal democracy era of the U.S.? Like, are we headed to a pre-civil rights era framework? I don't know what it's going to look like, but it does sort of feel like we're potentially entering into a...
And that's been a long slide. I mean, since... I'm 36 years old. Well, I don't know. It's just like Democrats have been in power for 20 of those in the executive, and I'm trying to think of why all of those were wasted. And a large part of that is like the coalition that put these people in power, which is like the super wealthy liberals. And like that's why I think Emma's so frustrated. And like I agree with that, because it's just like I do feel like it's going down the drain. And like even myths that were given to the previous generations about no one's above the law, and look at how great the media is at keeping a watchdog on DC. That's all a lie, because actually Watergate's one of many stories and they missed a whole bunch of them. And I don't know, I do feel like things are going down the drain.
I'll also say this, like my frustration is also because I think, we did learn some lessons from 2016. We had the election of the squad. There was some excitement in the Democratic Party about bringing in new voices. And there was the pandemic, and there was all this fear about Trump getting reelected. And so the most safe candidate was selected by the public and coalesced behind by the Democratic Party, which, by the way, knows how to make things happen when they want to. And they got everyone to drop out. And Bernie was already sliding down at that point, but Obama made a call and it worked out. And then now we're going to do this again. We're going to go into an election against Donald Trump when the stakes are even higher, and we have Project 2025.
And they have words like fascism in the vocabulary, and this is the response to it.
And now Trump's not an unknown anymore. We know who Trump is, and the negative partisanship around Trump is much stronger than in 2016, when people were more like, "Yeah, he's kind of funny, and he might F some crap up and throw a brick through the window of the establishment," which is what I want. Now we know he's extremely incompetent and dangerous, and Biden is still losing.
Over the course of the pandemic, you start to, and we did a couple of interviews about Woodrow Wilson supposedly having like the Spanish flu, and his plans when he went to Europe to sign and negotiate the Treaty of Versailles sort of went out the window. And he initially was like, we can't. Did I say World War II and World War I? We can't humiliate Germany because it'll be bad. And there's some who suggested, like the Spanish flu, one of the sort of like side effects was it sort of made you a little loopy, and that he was incapable of maintaining that position in the course of the negotiations of the Treaty of Versailles. And then, down the road you get this. Like there is a quality about this story with Biden where you can imagine 20, 50, 70 years, 100 years in the future, people going like, this is how that happened.
Gaza?
Just no, I'm saying like how a Trump becomes president, all the thing that comes like possibly.
We could be talking about how is he a partner for tough negotiations with Netanyahu right now? I want to be like let's be serious here. He's sundowns after 4 p.m.
Who knows? But the idea of the election coming down to people say that when not living in the West Wing, this is sort of a West Wing story. It's not necessarily, it's a little bleaker.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the happy ending, but this is as if like Larry David, wrote a script for the West Wing. This is the way it's going to turn out.
Well, it's like, this is like when the Voting Rights Act, for instance, we're done with that. This is like the sort of future where if we were saying what's the worst case that can happen based on that, and we're right on time as far as that goes.
And Democrats can, if they really want to, as I was saying before, demonstrate their commitment to democracy through action versus the Republicans. Like you heard Jamie Raskin say, this is the sign of a healthy political party. I mean, again, I don't know if that's necessarily true, but hypothetically, that there's a conversation that's being had about what the will of the voters want versus Trump, and him being a convicted felon, and still there being zero conversation within the Republican base. The Democrats could demonstrate to the public that is broadly unhappy, and so a majority of independents think Biden is not cognitively up to the task. You could demonstrate and say, hey, we are the party of democracy, literally by showing you, like, no one wants this candidate. We'll be responsive in that way. I think that.
But I mean,
it's still not democratic. I know.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, the Democrats, I don't know, have the, whoever they are, have the power that you're talking about, and also, in terms of, like, what is big D Democratic, or I should say small D Democratic, people voted for Biden because nobody else ran that was considered viable in any way.
Fair enough.
It's not like,
But maybe I have hope that Biden cares a little bit about the country, and if these poll numbers go down, that he'll see.
I hope he's. Yeah.
He cares about the country more than Trump.
I honestly do think that, like, if the poll numbers are down, in other words, this impacts not whether they want Biden to be the candidate or think that he's up to being the candidate, but actually there is a swing away from Biden. Because in some of those polls, he was starting to get garner some momentum. But it was like, some of the polls were going in the other direction. If there is like an explicit drop in his polling, and I mean specifically in terms of like the presidential race, one that makes it much harder, because I would imagine there are people that you're talking about who are talking to, Biden's inner circle. And I would imagine the inner circle says, you can't make that assessment until we see polls. And it's a hard argument to argue against, right? Because the argument is, you're never going to get anywhere by going like, your dad isn't capable of tying his shoes right now. Well, he probably is not, and everybody probably knows that. But your dad isn't capable of functioning. And how dare you? And if you say your dad is risking a re-election because of that, and it's clear after that debate, they're going to like, where's your proof?
Well, the appeal, I hear you on that. I mean, I would argue that the polls leading up to this point should be a big indicator that there's a big problem and that he didn't do anything to help himself. But the case needs to be made for Biden that his legacy will forever be ruined if he loses to Trump. No doubt. He will be known as somebody who clung on to power when there were signs that he needed to step aside, as opposed to the guy that beat Trump in the first instance. And that's what the New York Times
the case needs to be made to Jill Biden, I think.
Well, Jill's, on the cover of Vogue. I mean, I don't know what her incentives are, but go off, Queen. I don't know. The reality is that, like, that is, I think, the case that at least you're hearing from some of these papers that they're trying to make to the Democratic Party, and maybe that gets through to, or power players in the Democratic Party. Maybe that gets through the
Also, just to remind folks that the case for Biden over Bernie was exclusively and only that he is the more electable of the two.
Mill Rind. Now the audio Biden special counsel interview takes on more dignity. This will be death by a thousand cuts. It's plain that Klain would not have let things get this far. Under the best of circumstances, the stress of the presidency damn near kills you. Look at how Obama aged. Biden has gone off the cliff. Doesn't matter why. Stakes are too high. Mind Pillow Guy. Should Biden assassinate SCOTUS justices as an official act? I mean, that's the type of situation where it's like, it feels like he could have immunity. But the problem is, the ones that he would assassinate are presumably that you would want him to assassinate. And of course, it's all a satirical joke. Who would never encourage that at all. But, and we're talking about Biden hypothetically doing it. But like, theoretically, those would be the ones who voted for his immunity. And if you were going to do that act, you might be afraid that you would lose immunity if you got rid of the ones who voted for immunity in the first place.
Right.
Satirically, if Biden assassinated Sam Alito, I would vote for him for a third term.
I think, secretly what this is about is to give Obama immunity for killing Scalia at that hunting lodge.
This, you know what? I think there is probably, there's like a two birds with one stone situation here. We put Biden and Alito into a cage. And whichever guy comes out,
I like this already.
whichever guy comes out alive, will determine like whether there's going to be a new Democratic candidate or whether or not there's a presidential immunity.
Again, I
A
feel like
celebrity death match.
We're losing by being represented by Biden in that case, but sure.
But then we win because it's President Kamala, and what do they call that in Game of Thrones? A trial by combat,
Yes.
Game of Thrones.
democracy by
That's
combat.
history.
Carper Donnelly, as an SEC football fan, if
History.
you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Hey, Biden administration, time to go scorched earth and force the GOP to make a law to prevent your power grab. It could be the bipartisan because the Dems are already outraged by this decision. Immunity means immunity means immunity. Hogtown, happy Canada Day, crew, but we're not perfect, but you guys are making it harder for me to argue to my fellow Canucks that we're entitled to any sense of superiority to the U.S. Also, may have made a strategic error in letting my son listen to Saul's appearance on the show, so thanks for that. Militant apathy. The issue I have with Carvelli is he hasn't won crap since the 90s. Even when he did, it took Ross Perot to help him.
Yeah, he's a fossil.
Yeah, I agree. I just thought that part about the advisors versus employees was interesting. Sad part is Biden has been the best Democratic president in my 3 years on this earth. So if it's not the VP that replaces him, who is it and how does this happen? Well, first off, putting his Gaza policy, Israel policy aside, as a domestic president, there's no doubt I would say that Biden's been the best president of my lifetime as well. The bar, not terribly high, but be that as it may. I think it's hard for me to imagine that it would not be Harris as his replacement, because if you're going to do something this controversial, you want to do the least controversial thing, and the thing that literally makes for the least controversy would be to have Harris replace him on the ticket. I just don't see how you don't do that. She's been voted on, at least, by the primary electorate.
With an understanding that he's an older person. Right?
Well, I mean,
Like-
she's part of the ticket. I mean, she was part of the ticket. So, I mean, theoretically, you're not just voting for Biden, you're voting for Harris and Biden. So I think that would be my guess. And Hellboy says Harris can't win. I mean, maybe. Maybe.
I don't know. But
Biden?
right now, she's neck and neck in polling that Biden was sending out to supporters. Although the bar for Trump's 48% looked a little larger, even though it was still the same number for Biden. Anyway, a lot of that's the floor for some. I mean, I think that it increases a little more when they get more media attention. That's all I'm saying. But who knows? We're in uncharted territory.
Yeah, I mean, I think that electoral stuff and polling stuff is very inscrutable, but I do know that she would, perform the duties of a president better just now if he resigned, and would perform the duties of a candidate better.
Juniper J says Harris is the path of least resistance to get Biden into a rocking chair. DSA Aaron in Atlanta says it's Big Gretch or riot, damn it. I don't think Harris would necessarily
Gretch.
in a vacuum be the best of the candidates. In fact, I would argue that she wouldn't. But if the idea is that this is about putting a generic different person on the ballot, and you want to create as little dissension and you want to make the transition as smooth as possible, that's what you do.
And Whitmer is coming out already she's being a little aggressive today. She's leaking the Politico that she told the Biden campaign that they can't win Michigan after the debate.
Well, no, my reading of that is, my understanding is that she called them to say, A, I am not part of this draft Whitmer movement, which could very well be a lie. B, she said, I'm afraid that Biden can't win Michigan. Supposedly, I've heard that it was a rival to Whitmer who leaked this.
Interesting.
So that, because if Whitmer says, he can't win Michigan, and I'm, let's say, Newsom or some other,
Harris.
or maybe, I don't know. I would be surprised if Harris is leaking that, but maybe.
Or Newsom or
That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
Newsom,
Pritzker
they're Pritzker, or, they want to open it up. Because just remember also, there's an opportunity for someone to be vice president.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And it won't be Newsom to Californians, I think, if Harris is. That could be. And I don't think they'll do 2 women with Whitmer. So.
I don't know about that.
But Whitmer, she's very popular in her state, and they need Michigan.
Yep. Small D Democrat. The last week of news has me very close to deleting the MR app and downloading 1,000 fiction audiobooks. I understand. If Biden had never become president, no one would have ever known that Hunter Biden existed, let alone investigated his crimes. In some way, Joe ruined his son's life.
All right, that's a little harsh, but yeah, he made some choices himself.
He made his life too.
Yeah,
to be fair.
yeah.
Serious business. There's an article written by Jonathan Chait, of all people, that Biden stepping down would lead to Harris taking over, but the rest of Dem leadership doesn't trust her to lead, and that passing over Harris would damage black voter turnout, which is already low, so they've locked themselves in place. Take it with a grain of salt, considering the source.
What's this Dem leadership don't trust her to lead? Like, who are those people? What are they expecting she wouldn't do compared to what Biden is doing? Like, that I need to see more meat on those bones.
Yada, yada, yada. Sam, weren't you born during the LBJ era? Would you rank Biden ahead of LBJ domestically? Just curious, not debating. When did when was that?
LBJ?
When was LBJ?
1968 was
63
when
to 68.
he left office.
Okay, I was 18 months.
Also,
I was 12 months. So I was 1 year old.
People call Gaza Biden's Vietnam, but LBJ tried to stop the Vietnam War, and it was scuttled. The Paris peace talks specifically were scuttled by Kissinger and Nixon, so Kissinger would win the presidency. I don't think Biden,
Nixon, yeah.
Or Nixon, yeah. Maybe that's a similar dynamic is happening because Netanyahu wants Trump to win. I wouldn't be surprised, frankly, but I don't think we can credit Biden with being as opposed to Gaza as even LBJ was with Vietnam, which is his worst mark on his legacy.
Interesting. Edward the Black. What about switching the ticket to Harris Biden?
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
That's pretty mind blowing.
Yeah.
They could switch it to Harris Biden. Well, not the ticket. No. Yeah.
How do you replace a vice president once they're...
Oh, it would be at the convention.
Yeah.
No, but like if Biden died, say, in next March, when Kamala was in office.
That's happened.
I know it happened with Nixon and
Spiro
and
Agnew.
stuff.
But isn't it? Wouldn't it go to the Speaker of the House next, or is that?
No.
That's just presidential succession.
Maybe they promote internally.
I think they just appoint somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Buttigieg.
Yeah, right.
It would be like his dream.
It's not that strange considering they appoint the vice president in the first place, and I'm not aware of a situation where, at least in modern times, where their nominee has been. All right, 5 more. We're out of here. John from T. Berg. Biden ordering someone to go trash student loan servers would require Biden to know what a server is. What's that? Fancy new name for waitresses? Okay. Sprechen. Emma couldn't be more correct. We know this path is a dead end. We shouldn't be scared of unknown territory. Unknown quantity greater than definite loss. Better than.
And again, I had thought that Biden was going to pull this off before the debate. But I just really don't think there's a lot of room in that polling for him to increase his numbers after that performance, and the cat's out of the bag about his cognition.
Now the bet is his corpse can surf the wave over the finish line.
Onion breath. I'm adjacent to Illinois politics and have it on good authority that Dick Durbin is the new Dianne Feinstein. Wouldn't surprise me. As much as it disgusts me, Harris Newsom is the ticket to ride.
They won't do 2 California people.
No, yeah.
They're not going to do, even though I actually think Newsom in a debate with Trump, like Newsom is a slimy dude, but he's a good orator and he can fight in a debate setting. And we saw how DeSantis diminished himself in those primary debates with Newsom. I would like to see that, but it's just not going to happen for him, I think.
Shabri. I read the syllabus for the immunity case, pretty much remanded most of the issues back to the D.C. Circuit to determine whether or not they were official acts. Biden could tell the FBI director to assassinate Trump and he'd be immune. Thomas's concurrence says that Jack Smith's special counsel office shouldn't exist. Thomas trying to insulate Trump as much as possible, allowed by law. One of the quotes from Thomas's concurrence completely shatters the above the law idea. He literally says the criminal prosecution immunity for official acts is the law. He's such a gross justice. It makes me more mad than anything else. Two more. Owen from Wisconsin. They are 400 balloons. The Democrats, the candidate would have to be Kamala. The K-Hive is the Democratic Party now. No one wants to deal with the K-Hive.
I'm in the K-Hive now. Don't you guys get it?
And the final IM of the day, my iPad is dead. Ryan from Rochester. Best case ticket, Harris Whitmer. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.